So, holy cow. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Love the eggnog. Do you like the eggnog? Let me tell you, I hope you're enjoying the holiday season here at Justice Serve TV. We are doing the same. And there's nothing like the exchange of gifts between family members, friends, and loved ones. But there's sometimes a gift that just keeps on giving you can't ignore. And that's why we're going to look into the latest hearing of Fani Willis.
Justice, where are you? Michael and Linda are here.
I love you, Linda.
The world is justice. Will we ever find justice?
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing
Will
"Oh
we
Happy
know
Day."
justice when we see it? To be and down, may I lead the way. Hoping justice will win the day. Listener clues, finding justice where we can. Join us now, we're on the run. Justice is waiting, we'll see it done.
Hey, folks, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus for the rest of us, and whatever else I might have missed. I appreciate you being here. It seemed like a good time to, nothing we do is actually funny, but sometimes you can find humor in interesting places. And every time I think of Fani Willis, I just have to chuckle a little bit. Most people know of her from her experiences and her attempts to use the RICO statutes to go after folks. We were deep into the YSL trial, of course. Doug Weinstein, good friend of our channel. I love to have him on. And he obviously worked his way around the attempt to convict his client of some horrible crimes, got a full acquittal in that case that involved so many different defendants. I wouldn't say that was a successful use of RICO. I'm sure Fani Willis would disagree with me. Anyway, a couple of days ago, she had to appear in front of a Senate committee, a state Senate committee, to talk about her job and the money and all of those things that have still become, big mysteries to those who live and work and pay for the things they have in Fulton County. I was just zipping through some of this. We're going to hit some of the high points. I guarantee you, I can play true crime roulette with this, and there will be plenty of just moments where we just stop it and listen and see what she's got to say. She arrived in this totally, I thought it was the Met Gala, white outfit head to toe. I think she had a bodyguard with her. Didn't see Nathan anywhere nearby. But the attitude is just amazing to me. And that's, this is not a political thing. Yeah, she did win re-election by something like 80% of the vote, which shocks me. But she did. And you talk to anybody in Fulton County, and I've talked to plenty of folks when I was down there covering YSL, they're mad about many things, and yet she gets reelected. And the office she runs spends so much money. It's unbelievable. I think 80 million, I think, was the number that I heard most common. And it's already 80 million in this year, which of course still has yet a week to go. A lot of money. And it's on prosecution of many cases, many of them justified. But we also know the whole Nathan Wade story. We know about that money. I'm not going to relive that. But let's get into this hearing in which she's telling state senators, really to justify her job, how she feels about them, the process, says all of your witnesses were white. I want to start with her background. I'm not sure if folks are familiar with Fani Willis's background. And I really wasn't, not to the degree that she lays it out. And she's clearly done this many times before, because you can just tell the way she rattles it off. It's a pretty clear resume in her brain. So let's jump into the hearing, shall we? And again, once we get past some of this introductory stuff, I think we're just going to hit and miss our way through it. Every time I've listened to bits and pieces, it's never ending. The attitude, the arrogance, it's shocking.
There in 3.5 years.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me back up a little bit.
Your 30-year legal history. If you could just tell the committee your path to becoming the district attorney in Fulton County.
Well, I went to the best university in the nation, Howard University, matriculated through there in 3.5 years and graduated December of 92, although I walked in May of 1990.
Give her total credit for that, going through college in 3.5 years. Of course, if you're working full time when you go to college, as I was, maybe it'll take you a touch longer. But Good for her.
93. I then came down to Georgia because I was admitted to one of the top 25 law schools in the country, Emory University School of Law.
Okay, now I have to jump in here. Sorry. Moot court, she's going to mention it here. Our moot court team, and I went to a private school in Central California. Nobody knows who they are, who we are, who we were. But I passed the bar the first time. Didn't really find it all that challenging. Thought law school was much more challenging, but kicked Emory's ass in moot court competition. All right, that's all I'm going to say. And that was the team I was on, and Judith Hall was my partner.
While at Emory University School of Law, for the first time in Emory's history, I won the Frederick Douglass Moot Court competition, which is a national competition put on by the Black Law Students Association. Successfully matriculated through, took the Georgia bar because the Olympics was that year. That was the last year that you could take the bar while still in law school. So during my last semester of law school, I took the bar and passed on the first try. Then became a lawyer. I worked for a small law firm.
Okay, I just have to say this because I think it's relative. I know it sounds like bragging, but these are just the facts. California has the toughest bar exam, okay? First time pass rate is the lowest in the country. Florida has the easiest. Georgia, not far behind, okay? So God bless her. She did what she needed to do. She passed. Not so sure that makes her one of the top lawyers in the country. All right? Okay.
With Alvin Kendall. Alvin Kendall has a great knack for picking talent because at that law firm at the time was myself and the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who will be a great candidate for governor of this state and is now running for office. Also Teresa Mann, who is a judge in the city of Atlanta court, and another lawyer by the name of Carl Touchtone. We represented people in both criminal and civil cases. I worked there for a small time. I then left that law firm and opened up my own law practice where I practiced both juvenile law, criminal law, did some family stuff. Young practitioner, I did that out of Douglas County, Georgia, but I represented people in the entire metro area during that time. Got married, had 2 children, became a solicitor, needed a kind of a more calm life. So I went to work for Raines Carter, who's been the longest standing solicitor, I think, in the country at this point. Worked for him for some time, applied to become a district attorney, worked there approximately 16 years, tried.
Let me just jump in here about the solicitor. And we've talked about this before. That's really taken from English law, where you have barristers and solicitors. In this country, it'd be more relatable as a transactional attorney, meaning you're working on contracts, drafting wills. You're not litigating. You're not in court. And she's right. It's a calmer, still difficult, still challenging. It's a calmer practice of law.
Every type of case you can imagine, but I was really a murder prosecutor. That's what I do best. But also at that time tried the longest case in Georgia's history, which is the Atlanta Public Schools case, a RICO case. That's how I became acquainted with John Floyd, because he taught me RICO inside and out, and taught me how you can use that to bring criminals to justice, which I've done throughout my career.
Well, not counting YSL or the failed political RICO, but other than that,
successfully. Worked there, then decided to leave to run for office. Ran for judge, came up 49%, I believe, is the percentage of the vote that I won. Actually went to a Republican strategist. He told me, because I went to a runoff, Republicans will not vote for you. And I said, why? I've had a history of representing this state. I've done so successfully. I'm known as a prosecutor. He said, you're Black and female. I said, I don't believe that to be true. I don't think that's the state of the nation. Who knew? He was right and I was wrong. I lost that election, but that was God's plan, because after.
Okay, hold on. She's African American. She's a woman. Great, wonderful. That's not why people would not vote for her. She's unlikable. She's an unpleasant person, and I've never seen her belie that characterization. It's not just me. Anybody watching this, even in the most simple of exchanges, she's got this chip on her shoulder, and that comes through. Now, why it didn't keep people from voting for her for DA, I assume it's just go in, mark the box that you are, you're familiar with. Oh yeah, Willis, I remember that one. But to say that she lost an election, even if it was her white opponent who was saying it because she was African American, wrong. You're just not likable.
After that, I had the honor of representing the Judicial Qualifications Commission. I'm one of the only Black lawyers to ever be able to do that in the state of Georgia, where I prosecuted judges who had done something wrong. And so that was a great honor of mine. Richard Hyde was one of the people that helped me to get that position because he had worked with me on Atlanta Public Schools. I think that he's still doing that kind of work, and he's a very great investigator. So I did that for a while. I also got to represent a lot of fathers and mothers as they went through domestic things, did some criminal defense work. And then people started coming to me. You need to run for district attorney. Current district attorney has some problems. You'd be outstanding at it. And who knew? I ran, I won. I'm the first woman to serve as district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia. Best to ever do it. I sit here with a 92% conviction rate. That's my history.
All right, then. So I have not had a chance to fact check those numbers, but take her at her word. Okay, 92% conviction rate. All right. So I'm just going to do some true crime roulette here with my own feedback. And let's see. I'm going to, when I see her gesticulate, because she's very, forceful. Let's see. Let's see what we got here.
And the greater community to kind of advise me. I believe in diversity, so it was a diverse group. If you do studies on diversity, although some of you are against it, you will realize that the companies that do the best employ diversity. And so I employed diversity in that committee, and I've employed diversity in my staff because I represent a diverse community.
Who was a part of that committee?
I don't remember all the names, and I'm not going to guess at it.
What names do you remember?
Oh, my goodness. Lee Dupree's husband, William Dupree, was on that committee.
Okay, moving on. But, when he says, who's on that committee, can't she just say, I'm sorry, I just can't remember the names. But she just has to be just sassy. And I'm sure that's great in a court of law at times when you're representing a client.
I can't speak to any other person's testimony, so I'm not going to ever comment on someone's testimony. If he testified to such, you're going to need to show it to me. You'll have to forgive me. I don't really trust you. So I'll have to see that particular testimony.
Do you recall Mr. Wade being...
Wait just a minute. She's got a right to finish her answer. You don't have a right to cut her off.
That's incorrect, Governor. Thank you.
Sir. It is
I'll be completing answers, sir. So
sure.
You should get that straight from the...
Was Mr. Wade part of, would you say, more than half of the interviews that you conducted?
Yes.
Would you say it was more than 75% of the interviews you
I'm not going to guess at numbers. He was definitely more than half.
And what percentage of decisions, was the same percentage of decisions that he was a part of?
I ultimately made every decision. I take wise counsel from a group of people. So I took wise counsel from him. I took wise counsel from Deputy Bond. Ultimately, I made the decision on who stayed and who went.
Now, is there any doubt in the Nathan Wade arrangement, whatever it was, romance with Fani Willis, that she was wearing the pants? No, I don't think anybody would dispute that. So the guy sitting next to her here on the right, I should have mentioned that, former governor of Georgia, and he's now representing her, and I can't remember his name. But he's a classic. He's like Foghorn Leghorn. I'll say I'm here to represent Miss Willis. He's just like an old, seersucker suit Georgia lawyer. It's fine. That's why people have characterizations of people. That's kind of what this guy is. So he's there to protect her rights.
Was Mr. Wade paid for this transition work?
None of them were paid. It was all volunteer work. It was wanting to make sure that the region was safe. So people volunteered their time to make sure that we had the best and the brightest representing Fulton County, and that this community stayed safe. And every person who did it for free.
Thank you. One of the things you did when you came into office was you formed this new anti-corruption unit. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Can you walk us through the decision process to stand that unit up, if that replaced any other units, and who was a part of that unit once it was stood up?
And I'm actually not sure we called it the anti-corruption unit when we first took over. So when I became the district attorney, Paul Howard had 101 police brutality cases, many that went back to years, maybe to 2009. People in the community were very upset. It was both unfair to the law enforcement officers and to the community that decisions were not made. And so I knew that one of the things that I was going to have to do was to make sure that every case got looked at and was evaluated. And so I was looking for attorneys to do that. I'm not sure if that's what we called it at first, because I think we called it the Civil Rights Unit. In fact, when we first opened it, I think it was the Civil Rights Unit.
Okay, I think that's an amazing plan. And if there was that one person responsible for that many complaints, good for her for opening that up. And hopefully ending the corruption or at least putting a dent in it. Okay. Let's see. She testified for about 3 hours total, 2 hours of direct, a little bit of cross, and then there was some redirect. I mean, it is a committee hearing. It's not like a court of law, so it's it's a little looser, a little less. There's not a lot of objecting going on. It's really just a conversation to find out, in this case, how she ran her office, why she did it, what the money went toward, and just their overall investigation as a lawmaking body to see if there's anything else they can create, any laws that will best protect the community while she's doing her job. Okay, I think I got something here. Let's see.
What I would call him is a seasoned lawyer, 25 years, first African-American lawyer to ever serve Cobb County as a municipal court judge. What I would call him is a lawyer with a distinguished resume.
Okay. When did you begin to consider whether to bring charges in response to the 2020 presidential election in Georgia?
Don't answer that. That's a deliberative privilege. Don't answer that. I instruct you not to answer.
Is it true that part of your transition team was involved in the process of interviewing people before you entered office to lead the investigation into the 2020 presidential election?
I'd like to answer that.
Go right ahead. You only take my advice sometimes anyway. Go ahead.
That's really an ignorant question. And if you understand what the word ignorant means, it means the lack of knowledge.
Oh my
If you
God.
recall the facts, I was already district attorney when this all came to light. So it's factually impossible.
You were district attorney when what came to light?
Hold on a sec. Hold on. I gotta look up ignorant in my Buchanan dictionary. Hold on. Ignorance. Oh, there's a picture of Fani in here. Anyway, somebody that challenges somebody on a word like that and is just downright disrespectful should not be respected in response to it. She doesn't deserve it. And yet these guys are, they all are very civil, respectful, doing their job. But she's just an asshole all the time.
When Raffensperger went on Good Morning America or whatever show he went on, I was already district attorney. So what you ask is a factual impossibility. Now, I know they've gotten black folks confused and said I was running for office, saying I was going to prosecute the president of the United States, but that's what we call a lie.
Okay. I would like
Take your
to.
advice from here on out, okay?
Yeah.
I think this is my eggnog, and I really do love eggnog, but it's so it's very rich, very rich.
If you take a look at the screen for me, if you will.
I finally found a use for this, maybe.
This is from Mr. Wade's deposition to members of Jim Jordan's committee. And it was asked for the search committee. You said that began when DA Willis took office on January 1, 2021. Is that correct? Yes. And there was outreach to you to be part of the search committee prior to January 1, 2021. Absolutely. When did that start? Sometime after the election, but prior to her taking office. Okay, so between the election, you're referring to November 2020 election. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. And so when you had conversations with individuals, you said on multiple occasions, you said no, and you turned down the position. Who were those conversations with? They were with the district attorney.
So I think you're confusing facts. We've already had a long conversation about I interviewed everybody at the DA's office, and I interviewed other people to come and work at the district attorney's office. And as I told you, I did that on my free time before I became DA. But I had no way of knowing that these criminals were going to commit a crime. And that did not come to light until January of 2021 when I'm actually the DA. So it is a factual impossibility, like I already told you. I think that is misinterpreted. He's absolutely correct. We looked for talent for the district attorney's office before I became the DA. I didn't wait till the day I took office to look for talent that would represent my office. But I was unable to look for talent for a case that didn't exist before I took office. It's factually impossible. It's common sense. You don't need to be a lawyer.
I'm going to read you some additional testimony. I'll try to put it on the
You
screen.
can read me as much as you want, but
And I
that's the
will.
truth.
Thank you, Madam DA.
Just. Oh. Which you think she's on the naughty list or
I
nice list?
apologize.
What do you
I did
think?
not intend to have to get into this here.
Yeah, I mean, she's so defensive. She thinks that every single
What was
moment
the-
is going to be a
when
gotcha.
Mr. Wade says that there was an interview on line 13, as you'll see here. This is prior to you entering office. What were you interviewing him for?
I didn't interview him prior to him entering office. He had a thriving law practice. Even when he ends up being offered the position, he doesn't want it.
Okay, now. So it's your testimony today that you and Mr. Wade did not have any conversations prior to you taking office relative to an investigation into the 2020 election.
Don't answer that. That is a deliberative privilege of what goes on in a district attorney's mind and the process that goes.
She wasn't district attorney.
She was.
Prior to being sworn in, she was district attorney.
No, she was not. But you asked.
I'll return to my question. Prior to you being sworn in as district attorney, is it your testimony today that you did not have any conversation with Mr. Wade about investigating the 2020 election?
Do you want to answer?
It's a dumbass question.
I know it is, but go ahead and tell him because it occurred after she took office. But
The question, jerk, is before you took office, are you saying you never had communications with Mr. Wade about the possibility of challenging the 20? It's a simple question. It's not a dumbass question. The person suggesting that is just so defensive that she looks like the ass. It's just, I mean, if I were in that county,
I didn't know that he was going to commit a crime prior to me taking office. Like, factually, it's impossible.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if that's the case, just say no.
Um,
And then I have a feeling that somewhere he has evidence that they in fact did. And that's why she doesn't want to say no on the record.
Would you agree with the statement? Actually, I'll skip that question. When did you decide to hire outside of your office a special assistant district attorney for this election case?
Oh, Lord. So when I became the district attorney of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos. I have to take you back. Can you hear me?
It's a little, I was gonna try to turn you up if you don't mind leaning forward.
When I
He's going to regret this because she's going to start doing what we call in the biz, eating the mic. Or she's going to be like talking like this. It's going to be totally distorted. But
became the district attorney
Anyway.
of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos. And I mean every level of chaos. On the ground, the carpet was molded and there were holes in it, and it was disgusting, a disgusting environment. There were boxes in offices, some to where you couldn't open the door. I remember walking through the office before. I told you I'd fired 50 or 60, I don't know exactly how many employees that I felt were unqualified to do this work. That doesn't mean they were bad people, but they were unqualified for the positions that they held.
So what about Nathan Wade? He was very qualified to handle a RICO case. Right. Well, they were bumping one another, so maybe that's the reason. Okay, let's see if I can find some more gesticulation here, because that's usually when she's getting very mad. Ooh, that looks mad, maybe.
6 cases that came in January 1st, 2021 till December 31st of 2024. So while people tell these lies about the DA ain't been working, I want you to find a DA working as hard as me.
My question was,
Harumph.
when did you decide to hire outside counsel, a special assistant district attorney for the election interference case?
When it became obvious that this case would take so much investigation to learn the truth, and that I would need people that could focus on that. And although I had talent in the office that was being developed, each and every member of my staff had a priority. See, this is the most important case to you. Let me tell you what the most important case was to me. When I walked in the office, there had been 2 Black children that had been killed, Sequoia Turner and Kennedy Maxwell. Those were the 2 most important cases to me as the DA. And I needed to make sure that those families got justice, but the cases didn't come with a bow on them. In fact, one of the cases was particularly not done properly. And so my priority became making sure I had the talent to make sure we got all of those cases done. If you're wondering, both those men are doing life right now for taking those children from us.
Okay, and I'm not suggesting she hasn't done some good work, or has good people working for her that have done good work. And I have no problem with her prioritizing some of these cases that need the attention. But don't try and tell me that a RICO case, which is complex, and you don't have anybody in the office you think is able to handle it properly, you go outside the office and hand the job to a guy who has zero experience with that kind of case or with much criminal matter at all, misdemeanors here and there. Just don't lie about that.
Certainly aware of the case in the autonomous zone and everything that happened back in that tragic time frame. So definitely appreciate those murderers being behind bars. So you didn't really give me a date range, but we'll just move on here. But you did consider Governor Barnes for this role. He's testified to that.
And Governor Barnes is Foghorn Leghorn, her attorney in this matter, the one sitting next to her.
Previously.
And let me tell you what Governor Barnes told me. Governor Barnes told me when he was the governor, he changed the state flag from the Confederate flag. And that as a result of him changing the Confederate flag to changing the flag to make it more inclusive to all Georgians, that the Ku Klux Klan sat outside his house and that he lived under threat during that time period. He told me that him and his beautiful wife had survived that, but that he was an older gentleman now. I'm gonna say that nicely. He was an older gentleman, and due to the nuts that would come out of the woodwork if I was doing this type of work, that he was not at a juncture in his life where he could take those kind of security risks. He also refused to work for $250 an hour.
Yeah, who would? Who'd want to do that? Okay, so let's see where we go from here. There's just so much to choose from. I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled by all the riches. Okay, this looks like something happening here.
To steal the rights of thousands of Georgians, it couldn't have been enough.
What was the rough total operating budget of your office last year?
I don't know that. It's probably around $40 million. That's a speculation and a guess. That includes state money, grant money, and that's not an exact number. I don't do the budget. I have very high-level conversations about that.
Okay. Can you give us a rough breakdown of that, the county budget and the state budget?
I cannot, and I'm not going to guess for you.
Does the federal government give you any money?
I do have some grants, yes.
The only source of federal money you get is from grants?
To my knowledge, I don't. There may be something else. We may have some federal seizure money. If we do, it's not much. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate. If I say, oh, they gave me grant money and this federal seizure money, and you find some line item someplace that I don't know, you'll swear I was trying to lie to you, when the truth is I don't know the correct answer. I'm
just trying to get to, I know you run a tight ship over there. You're proud of your work. I would assume that you would have
I'm the best DA in the Southeast. Why wouldn't I be proud of my work?
What's your annual budget?
Of course
I told you it's around $40 million, but I do not know an exact number.
And what's the approximate source of funds that you receive from the state versus the county?
Me, like every other district attorney in this state, do not receive enough funds. I told you that you all pay 20 to 25 ADAs. I don't know the exact number. I don't have it in front of me. You pay two legal assistants and one investigator. Now, Fulton County is 1,000,002 people. It's the place that when people come to Georgia, they're coming is to Atlanta. On a daily basis, we have 5 million people, and we are very improperly funded. If this committee wants to do some real work, it'll get serious about crime fighting among this state. From every rural community to I'm answering my question.
I'm good. That's not an answer to the question.
Okay, well, if this committee wants to get serious about legislation to make the communities in the state of Georgia safer, they will invest more money in every district attorney's office across this state. That's the rural DAs need more, the middle size, the residentials, and the big cities like Atlanta all of us need more resources to be able to do our job appropriately. And it is a joke the way that these people are funded that are dedicating their lives to public service. Also, I want to go back to, because this is extremely important and you have the power to do it, the Georgia Bureau of
Madam
Investigations
DA,
cannot
I
taste
did not
rape
ask you
kids.
for advice on what the legislature
You asked
can do. We
Exactly what the resolution said, to take advice on legislation.
and we will get to that time.
Well, you answer the question, she has a right to fully answer.
And if she would answer the question, Governor, I would not be saying it.
She said,
She's pontificating on everything from rape kits, which was what she was about to get into. The question was the amount of money that came from state funds and county funds. And if she doesn't know the answer to that question, the answer is I don't know. The question isn't let me talk. The answer isn't let me talk about rape kits.
Yeah. So here's her tact is always the same. She never knows where all the money went, never knows where it came from. We went through this in that whole hearing with Nathan Wade about how much money he made and where'd that come from. Well, we're learning now. And since that time, that there was a lot of government seizure from various, like where's the Richard Mille watch, right? There were two of them in the YSL case. One is missing. That's $250,000. So there's some question about the use of funds, and she has no clue. That's how she distracts from these stories. She just, I don't know the number, but here's what we need. We have people that are underpaid, and we have one investigator for only 20 or 25 DAs. And I don't disagree that sounds a little light. But she doesn't know the answer to the money question, so she deflects by attacking. And he used the word pontificating. I would say, speechifying, but pretty much the same thing. Okay, let's move on here. Foghorn Leghorn had to jump in on that little row. But as I said, you get 3 hours of this, and it's non-stop. And I don't know that they ever got anything from her that was worthwhile. It's all self-serving. It's all alibiing. It's all preaching. It's an embarrassment. Let me get to some documents here. I don't know if I want to get into that. Okay, here, let's see what we got here.
Those interchangeably, the process of interviewing Governor Barnes, among some other folks, ultimately settling on Mr. Wade.
Well, I don't want you to act like he was,
Well, after just talking to 2 or 3 people, I think, to be fair, I don't think I'm not saying it's the bottom.
He's a lawyer, been practicing law 25 years.
Sure.
Yeah, we know
What
his
was
story.
The reason that you chose to use, and I think if you could just unpack this for us a little bit more, that you chose to use a special assistant DA at the rate of $250 an hour versus using the attorneys that were already in your office, or hiring additional attorneys at a rate that you referenced earlier is between, I think you said between $85,000 and $200,000 a year.
Because we were drowning.
Here we go.
And so most of the lawyers I had in the office wouldn't be qualified to do that work, most of them. I had some that were qualified to do that work, but each of them had a major project. Let me use those 2 cases that mattered most to me, Kennedy Maxey and Sequoia Turner. I was determined we were going to win those cases. So on day 1, those cases got handed to Miss Dacia Young. In addition to... Okay,
she's obfuscating again as usual. If you haven't had time to do the math, she said most assistant DAs would be hired at about $80,000 to $200,000 a year, give or take. At $250 an hour, assuming no overtime, just straight 40 per week, 52 weeks, $500,000. Okay, so clearly Mr. Wade was exceptional in his abilities and his experience, and justified that money. That's why people are so pissed off, and she has no way around that. She just thought, she's so arrogant, she thought, I got my boyfriend in here, I'll do what I want to do, I'm running the show. And she did. And she spent a lot of people's money from Fulton County. So don't be yelling and screaming at these folks who are trying to figure out how to best fix your office when you have wasted so much money from people who live in Fulton County. And Fulton County, it is not a rich county. Cobb County is a little more wealthy. But, Fulton County is basically downtown Atlanta and that environment. And those people need the money. They don't need you pissing it away on boyfriends and travel. It's just outrageous.
I handed her that because nobody has one job. I handed her the Special Victims Division.
I don't want to hear this alibying that makes no sense and doesn't answer the question. And it's ridiculous that we're still talking about this, that the legislature is still trying to deal with what she did to this office. It's painful. I know it's not exactly in the Christmas spirit. I feel more like the Grinch at this point, but I'm sorry. I just think she needs to be continually exposed for who she is. Maybe the electorate will figure it out.
They're all amazing lawyers. John Floyd is the RICO expert. He wrote the book, literally. He taught me RICO. So that was his experience. He's not a
Foghorn Leghorn looking at his watch.
He's not necessarily going to be the trial prosecutor, but he certainly is great to help you put together an indictment, and he is certainly capable of questioning a witness, but that was not his forte. Ms. Cross is
so basically she's alibying and saying, all of my people are just not good. Nobody's that good. So I had to go with Nathan Wade. And the problem there is she paints herself in a corner because we know he was far from properly experienced in the stuff she was trying to bring. Oh, I got to see what she's gesticulating about here with the papers. Hold on a second. This could be
Harris.
The question's
Me?
about
No, I'm
blockbilling,
going to
Madam
answer
Dia.
this question right now.
Oh, wait, hold on. What's the question?
He did the
Okay.
The credibility of whoever's saying it is an issue.
Well, then let's just,
So I'd like to talk about what this committee did the last time we were here, and for the press, I will have 50 copies of this so each person can get a copy. You all, the last time y'all had a committee meeting, you all purported this lie that I had the honor of meeting Vice President Kamala Harris.
question's
Me?
about
No, I'm
blockbilling,
going to
Madam
answer
Dia.
this question right now. And when you stated that, you stated that it was me and it was Mayor Dickens. And then you put this exhibit up for the entire world to see. How disingenuous, how lacking of integrity for Ms. Merchant as an attorney to put it up, and for Cowsert, who I noticed is cowardly not here, to have.
Obviously talking about our friend Ashley, who wrung her out just on so many different occasions. But the most interesting one, of course, which we covered here and had Ashley talk about, was when Ashley put in a Freedom of Information Act request for records, right? And you remember, what was his name? Was it Poole? The guy who worked in the office, and he testified, and he was so unlikable, talking about how he applied a different standard to documents that were asked for by Ms. Merchant. Anyway, bottom line is she wins a lawsuit against them and gets $54,000 in attorney's fees. I don't know that she's ever really gotten all the documents. They still continue to be a little douchey about it. But that's the Ashley Merchant that we know. And she's, let's just say, I've always called her Ashley Merchant, Fani Willis's worst nightmare.
Have it here. This clearly says, I'm at a Black History Month project. Almost every important Black elected official across the country was invited to it. I'm on the lawn with a cocktail, and yet y'all tell the world I was sitting down with the vice president having a meeting. It was a damn lie. And this is the evidence of it. And y'all had the audacity to put it up on a screen as if you were showing something other than the DA was having a cocktail on the lawn. I have never even had the honor of meeting Vice President Kamala Harris. Never.
Kamala.
How would you define block billing?
Okay, before they move on. So I don't know that makes her sound better, even if she's pointing out that it was a misrepresentation, which obviously would be wrong if it was. But I don't know if I'd rather be known as the DA having a cocktail on the White House lawn rather than the DA meeting with the vice president. But anyway.
Like somebody who didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
I'm going to refer you to the screen. These
I
are
don't review those documents, so you're asking me to look at documents that I haven't for the first time. What I can tell you is that I
I'll give
only
you time to
allowed
review the
Mr. Wade to
documents.
bill 160 hours a week, and then Mr. Wade would
How
be
much?
the first one in the office making sure that my staff arrived. He corrected their behavior.
Okay, now she just said 160 hours a week. I know from having seen some of this that she corrected herself later, or Foghorn Leghorn corrected her saying 160 a month, which was the calculation I used to get to $500,000. That she's kind of lost the thread here by throwing that number out there.
They thought that 8:30 meant 8:30. He taught them that 8:30 means 7:45. He got there before them. He left after him. He taught them how to do this case, and he was a leader to that team and a public servant. And for that, him like me has been threatened. thousands of times. You want something to investigate as a legislature? Investigate how many times they've called me the N-word. Why don't you investigate that? Why don't you investigate them writing on my house? Why don't you investigate the fact that my house has been swatted? If you want something to do with your time that makes sense, and you can use all this in your campaign ad, you attacked Fani Willis. What have you done, sir? Nothing.
So I'm going to refer you to the screen.
I think the more calm that he is, this chairman, the more it pisses her off. That's just not the way she likes to do battle.
I know you said you don't approve.
I don't look at this. I've
review
never
these
seen it,
bills.
so I can't talk to you about documents I don't approve and don't review. Can't talk to you about it.
Who does approve the documents in your office when invoices come in?
I thought we'd been through this.
I don't believe you said who reviews the invoices and approves the invoices in your
First of all, I have no firsthand knowledge of it.
You have no
You
firsthand
want me to
knowledge of-
testify about something I don't have any firsthand knowledge of?
I'm asking.
Are you asking me to speculate? Because I've clearly told you I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it, and I'm not going to speculate.
The question is, when an invoice comes into your office from a special assistant district attorney, what is the review process for that invoice before it's paid?
She's answered this. She said she has a deputy of operations, and he reviews, or she reviews, and then it goes through the county. So it's a repetitive question.
What's the name of the deputy of operations?
The question has been asked and answered, and I believe it goes straight to the county, so I'm not sure. Dexter Bond.
There he is.
Do you-
I thought his name was Poole. I don't know why. Dexter Bond. Dexter Bond. Man, if you want to, late one night, maybe you're just having an adult beverage and you want to just sit back and enjoy some human theater, look up Dexter Bond testimony, Ashley Merchant cross-examination. Oh man, it is golden.
You know who ATG may be initials within your office?
I don't.
I would assume that it's accurate to say it's probably not Dexter Bond.
I don't. It may be somebody at the county.
What we're looking at here are two bills that were paid by and approved by your department. The one on the left is from the Cross firm, which refers to Anna Cross that we referenced earlier. The one on the right is invoice number 11 from Nathan Wade. And the first thing
Let me tell you why this is such a
the
damn
first
joke.
thing that jumps out to me.
She's about to be exposed and she don't like it.
As someone who has paid lawyer bills before, and I believe this gets to the question, the question which was around block billing. And here's my question for you, Madam DA. Are there rules in your contracts or otherwise when you hire independent contractors that gets to the billing methodology for your attorneys? In other words, are they allowed to always bill to the even hour, or is there a professional expectation that they would bill to the 10th?
Let me tell you something. I had 3 attorneys working with me that had integrity. For you to insinuate that a judge that sat for 10 years and was the head of the magistrate court judges, that they did something illegal. They were underpaid. I have here documents where in one annual year, because I want you to remember his bills were over the course of 3
not a
years.
different kind of year.
In one annual year made 8 million, made 5 million. And I'm going to make sure that the press has that so that when you're asking me about this great service to the state of Georgia, that it is understood that these are more than reasonable, actually bargain basement amounts. Ms. Cross would insist that I wrote government rate in her contract because she didn't want anyone to get confused that she would actually work for this rate, but for the fact that it was service to her community. So I don't know what we're talking about here, but to insinuate these 3 lawyers that have great integrity, have served this community well, did something unethical. I don't know why we're having this conversation.
I'm trying to.
I don't know anything about whatever you're talking about.
The state of Georgia allocates funding to your office.
They hire those 25 lawyers, yes.
And we are the questioning here is relative to the approval process of invoices that are paid by your office. You have testified that is done by Dexter Bond, that you're unaware of who this ATG is that signed off on this. We'll move on to this further line of questioning here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he's anticipating this kind of defensive attack with everything. But I mean, they're hitting her right in the sore spot. Where'd this money go? Was it justified? Who okayed it? Dexter Bond. And he talked about block billing. That would be where you would say, and there were entries in Nathan Wade's journal. I remember now that like 8 hours White House. Okay. We've talked before about, in my experience with a firm where you have to account for your time in tenths of an hour, 6-minute chunks, that's what you do. You've got a sheet, and every day it's got client number, case number, Smith versus Jones, how long, and what the task is. And I've said, and I think this is totally legitimate. If I'm taking a shower and I'm thinking, okay, the trial strategy for this in my opening statement, I think it's better if I do this and this versus this. That's billable time. I don't care. Sitting on the toilet. If I'm thinking about the case, that's all I'm getting paid for is the thinking and presenting of the case. So I might write down, analysis of trial in preparation for opening statement. Point 2. That's the way it works. So he's talking about that compared to a block billing, which is just like a blank statement. Met with so-and-so at the White House, 8 hours. Obviously far less specific, far less, easy to scrutinize, because you go, well, what is in that blob, right?
Old men have to go to the bathroom by that.
Uh-oh, Foghorn
Like a
Leghorn.
5-minute recess.
Foghorn Leghorn, let's go to the bathroom.
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, let me zoom ahead here. Are we enjoying this? She just fascinates me as I'm not a shrink, but man, it makes me wish I'd gone into the mental health field, because I think she's got some issues, and the way she just, when all else fails, be an asshole.
In attorney's fees, I've done initial 52 million in attorney's fees with the top recipient in that year, initials AF. I've taken off their name at 3,593,000. That was for 2020. In 2021, again, in excess of 52 million, with the top one in that year being AD as the initials, 2,673,000. I should note the great Josh Belafonte was one of the recipients that year, and he made 1.3 million in 2021. In 2022, the AG's office spent on special prosecutors $55 million. DS being the top recipient for that year,
I think
$2 million, 200,000. Josh Belafonte made $911,000. In 2023, the AG's office spent $65 million, with the top recipient making $5 million, initials MR, and I'm going to finish. And 2024.
Oh, he turned off her microphone.
And they made $4.6 million.
She's basically saying, look at the AG's office. They're blowing money left and right.
Move on to the next question here.
They got a bigger budget, and they're blowing it, and here's where it's going. Again, best defense is a good offense. Best offense. Best defense is good offense.
Right. And I have a copy for the press 50 if you like them.
Can I get a copy of that?
All right, we're going to move on to our next question here.
And it is relevant since you're questioning the rate of special prosecutor.
That's for the press.
Yeah. Okay. So the question then is, how relevant is it with what the AG is doing? Different office, different structure, different personnel, different cases, different issues. Isn't it more relevant to see what's happening in the DA's office and then comparing apples with apples? Here's the she keeps saying 20 to 25 ADAs. You don't even know? I would think if you're the DA, you would know. Does that mean you have a allocation for 25, but right now you don't have 25? Or do you have an allocation for 20? You should know that basic information. And then the question is, well, let's compare those numbers. Who's making how much? And we already know from hiring guidelines, it's between $80,000 and $220,000. That's what the ADAs get. So what the AG is doing and spending, this is not an audit of their information because it's irrelevant. That's the oranges. We're dealing with the apples here.
Refer your attention to the screen.
Now, I'm not saying they aren't blowing money either. They probably are, but the point is, let's stick with the comparison that makes sense.
Ma'am, have you seen this letter before?
It's got my signature on it.
That wasn't the question.
Yes, that's how it got signed.
God.
You sent this letter on December 17th, 2021, requesting access to documents to from the January 6th committee, Chairman Mr. Representative Thompson. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay. Did you or anyone in your office receive help in your investigation from the January 6th Commission?
Do you want me?
What do you mean by help?
Did they send you documents?
Well, they're public documents now.
Did they send you any documents that were not public? That were not public at the time? 'Cause
None that I
believe
can
the report's
recall.
been
None that I
released.
can recall.
In the letter, you offer to meet them in person. Did they take you up on the offer to meet in person?
I've never met Thompson.
Have you ever met anyone that was doing work with the January 6th Commission?
Not to my knowledge. I may have met them and not known they were doing that work.
Mr. Wade traveled to DC with members of your staff. Is that
That's what I
correct?
mentioned.
That is correct.
The body language is just so amazing. You know, it's just like, bap, 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 bap. Whoa! Almost pulled my computer right off the desk. You know, it's just so in your face.
And Mr. Wade billed for conference calls with the January 6th committee. Is that correct?
I haven't looked at the bills.
What difference does that make?
On the left side of the screen here, and I apologize, the camera's in your way. There's a screen over here.
You'll have to remember the criminals that I
Yes, I can
indicted,
see.
they had committed crimes all over the country. And so as a result, as a prosecutor, if you know that a criminal has done crimes in this state and other states, it would almost not be due diligence to try to get information from them. Here goes some more legislation you can take up. There is a process called TUI with the federal government where state prosecutors try to get information from federal prosecutors. They are not very helpful.
Hey, who's not familiar with the TUI operation after Karen Reed, right? That's all of the information from the federal investigation spilled into the Karen Reed case and proctorized the whole thing.
On this bill, on the left-hand side, the first
I
red
haven't
highlight.
seen the bill, so you remember?
That's why I'm showing it to you, Madam DA. It says team meeting conference with January 6th, research legal issues to prep and then it ends with V. He testified, and the testimony is on the right side of the screen that meant interview. And then the second one is travel out of state, interview and research, which was from April 27th until April 29th. Are you aware of a trip that Mr. Wade took out of state that your office paid for in April of 2022?
Yes.
What was the purpose of the trip?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I'm sure to get information on some of the criminals I ended up indicting.
This slide here shows essentially a reimbursement request on the right-hand side for Mr. Wade at the Hyatt Place Hotel. And on the left-hand side, this is an invoice for the Hyatt Place Hotel during the time period I referenced earlier for Mr. Michael Hill. Do you know who Michael Hill is?
He was an assistant chief when he left my office. He's an investigator, though, a sworn law enforcement officer.
And he was on your staff during April of 2022. You said when he left your office. When did he leave the office?
I don't remember. But yes to the first question. He was on my staff at that time.
I was trying to enlarge it, but I can't. I'm just looking at the nightly rate for the Hyatt Place Hotel. Now, obviously, you know, DC is not cheap for anything, but $700 a night for a county employee. I mean, it sounds a little steep to me. Might have been a better, cheaper option.
I don't remember too the second question of when did he leave. Not long ago, he got a higher title at another office.
Do you know who else from your office attended this trip?
I can't recall. You can refresh my recollection if you like.
Well, here's another one. I'm just looking at some of these line items. The flight from Atlanta to DC is like a shuttle flight from New York to DC. It's very short. You could get, you know, even a last minute flight in a quote normal seat, maybe $300, give or take. This was $1,233 for his flight.
This is an invoice for the same hotel on the same dates from Mr. Francis. I assume it's Mr. Wakeford. Is that someone that worked in your staff?
An amazing attorney.
What was his role?
He's an attorney.
What did he do what work did he do within your department, your team?
He does all types of work, but he is what I would consider to be an appellate lawyer.
Now, this is the same place, different time, different attorney, $250 a night. Not in DC, not a surprise. In fact, believe it or not, I've paid that much in Dedham. Yeah, when I was up there covering, it had certain things going on. Yeah, that's so I got no problem with that.
Did he do work on the elections interference case?
Absolutely.
What work did he do on the election
And I was not staying at the Canton Ritz. There's really no such thing, or the Dedham Ritz.
interference case?
He did a lot of excellent writing.
This slide here is for Mr. John Wooten. Same hotel, same dates, same trip to D.C. Do you know John Wooten
He works for me.
currently?
Okay, and I think what he's doing is ultimately going to compare those numbers. That's my guess.
Did we have to go through the TUI process with that White House?
Here are the
Like we have to-
entries that I was telling you about. This is January 6th meeting with attorney conference, interview with DC/White House. Each one just says 8 hours, $250 an hour, $2,000. That is block billing.
To do with the Department of Justice. That's my recollection.
Okay, before we wrap this up, let me get a little, I would like to see a little more of Fani doing her
Okay,
thing.
with members of the J6 committee through any intermediaries that relayed messages back and forth on your behalf.
I don't recall ever speaking to any one of the January 6th committee. What you asked me, though, is have I ever met someone? I am a public official. I meet people all over this country all the time. Shake hands, take pictures, kiss babies, all the things elected officials do. So I have no idea if I've ever met someone that may have been part of the January 6th committee.
And I want, what is J6? Is that where they stormed the Capitol?
And killed a police officer?
Killed a police officer? Is that the same committee we're talking about? So that it's clear on the record.
The ones that have been exonerated, we say that we stand with law enforcement, but don't care when police officers get killed.
We're going to continue on to the next question, Governor.
That, of course, very hotly contested, but we won't get into that.
You are here to advise your counsel. You're not here to pontificate. Absolutely.
It is absolutely irrelevant, everything that you're trying to say.
How does this help you for laws? Yes, I'm sorry, Judge. I'm sorry, Governor.
If you've got something to ask it, but don't go into, well, there must have been a conspiracy here when they went up and looked into the folks that broke into the Capitol in Shambu suits or whatever that was, and put the Vice President of the United States out saying, hang Mike Pence, and that they were prosecuted and then pardoned by President Trump, and you're trying to say and infer that it was illegal, immoral to investigate that was
Okay, Foghorn. They're trying to find out where the money went, and it just so happens those expenses were related to some meetings of some sort related to J6. I don't care what you think about J6. All he's trying to find out is, was this money spent for these meetings and this block billing? Nobody has to spin off into some political tirade. I think blowing money is apolitical. Okay, let me see if I can get back to her. I'm getting a headache while looking at all the papers. Okay, here we go.
in legislation.
Uh-oh, Foghorn's still talking.
I'm amazed that everybody's fixated that the election was fixed 5 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe a half hour.
Well, we'll see what you think of this next slide. In January of 2021, you referenced his name earlier, but you hired Jeff DeSantis to be the deputy district attorney overseeing the media relations unit of the district attorney's office. Is that correct?
And strategy.
Media relations and strategy. Can you describe the difference between those two separate roles, or are you just saying that's the title?
That's the title.
It's the title. Okay. Was he serving in your office in April of 2021?
Yes.
Okay. He's classified those in ADA for personnel purposes.
He is a lawyer. He
Yes, he
went to
works.
Emory Law School.
Hey.
He was there 2 years ahead of me and graduated. He's my elder.
That's not hard for me.
When you're referencing media relations, how would you describe the overall role of media relations?
I bet she loves the media.
I don't read about media relations in any of these resolutions.
Okay, Foghorn, take a breather.
All right, on the beyond the scope, I'm sorry. Oh, I could do that, I guess. Is that me?
It's on.
Oh, it's on?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear him?
I know I'm not going to convince you, but I just want to give you the chance. I certainly know I'm not going to convince you, Madam DA. Whereas this is lines 26 to 30 of Senate Resolution 5. Whereas many have concluded that the conduct of District Attorney Willis has brought her and her office into disrepute.
My office has brought myself into respect.
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
And so that is,
I'm not done, Governor.
okay, go ahead.
Undermine public confidence in fair, impartial, and
The public voted me again by 68% respect.
Oh, I thought it was higher than that.
Madam DA, I don't think that it's, well, you continued. I mean, I've got my second fundraiser email from you while we're sitting here.
Did you donate?
I did early on when you ran against Paul Howard, and you know that.
That's so funny.
You selected the best DA in the country.
I'm just here as a lawyer, man. Fair and impartial, disinterested administration of justice by prosecutors across our state and cast significant doubt as to the purpose and validity of the charges of her office has brought in regard to the 2020 presidential election. Further, when you get to the language, the actionable language under powers and duties of the committee is hereby reauthorized to undertake legislative investigation into the issues mentioned above or related thereto. So I would submit it's broad. I presume that doesn't change your position, but okay. You say that it is irrelevant. You mentioned at the start of this that you were going to be able to object to privilege. Is it your position that relevance is a privilege that you're asserting?
It's more than just privilege. It is also that it's beyond the scope of what you've read.
Yeah. It's not a deposition. It's not a trial. You want to go sort those things out with the judge, you're going to lose.
Officers do. The chief of investigations has to sign off on approving them for that work site, as well as the district attorney. So that is to the law enforcement that report to me, because, I have a police department there. And so they have to get it signed off on that it's appropriate work. I don't like my investigators working in nightclubs, but they can certainly work at a store, or they like to work at State Farm Arena and things of that nature. If it's professional that's not an investigator and not a lawyer, they're pretty much able to do whatever. Of course, they can't do it on my hours, but they can work whatever. And if it's a lawyer, prosecutors are not able to practice law doing that. If they were selling pies at Christmas, I probably don't care.
Oh, all right. And that rough audio is because she's eating the microphone. It's not anything we can fix.
We're in between practicing law and selling pies. Are there any restrictions besides that?
None that come to mind.
Okay,
give me a big finish here, something interesting.
Are you aware of an entity called Critical Mention?
Oh, yeah.
I am.
I remember this.
I'm aware that you all use it.
What can you tell me about Critical Mention?
Critical Mention kind of tells you when your office or an issue that concerns your community comes into the new space. It has been used as a device by my office to find witnesses. It's been used as a device to determine if there's a pressing issue among my constituents that they are concerned about. But it is basically an outlet that lets you know what's going on in your community. It's helped us find witness victims, and like I said, been used for security.
Yeah, it was a major issue with Dexter Bond because Ashley Merchant asked for materials related to that weird little star chamber, whatever it is that she just explained. Anyway, I think in the absence of more alcohol, I can't continue on. But I thought interesting to dip into this. I knew that she would be a gift that literally keeps on giving. And, we're not done keeping an eye on Fulton County. They've got issues there. We know folks that practice down there, Ashley Merchant, Doug Weinstein, many others. And it's challenging. It's very challenging. And part of the reason is Fani Willis. So I have no problem sharing with folks who are interested in doing the right thing. Somebody that may not be doing the right thing. So, all right. I'm sorry. I know it's not Christmassy. I'm sorry, but important nonetheless. So, hey, have a tremendous holiday season. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy New Year. I don't know what our schedule is going to be between the holidays, but I wanted to get us through at least the week into Christmas, and we'll figure it out. All right. Thank you so much for being here, for being supportive of Justice Served TV. We are going to keep trying to do our best to bring you what we think is the important material, to analyze what's out there. and have you take part, because that's really the most important part of this process. Thanks again, and Merry Christmas, and try to do the right thing.